Hey, what's up? Halsey here. Today we have an exciting tutorial on how to animate inside of Photoshop. We'll be going over some of the project settings and keybinds, as well as some tips and tricks that hopefully will make the process just a little less painful. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's begin by setting up our hotkeys. And I know at first glance, this looks like a lot of information and it can feel really overwhelming, especially when we're trying to find these options within the preferences themselves, because these are the options that are the most relevant, the keys that are the most relevant, in my opinion. But there's a ton of other options on top of this, so it can be a little daunting trying to find them. But the good news is we can break it down really simply into two areas, the panel menus or the application menus. Meaning if it's not in one place, it's probably in the other. So if we go up here to edit and go down to keyboard shortcuts, we'll find some groupings for shortcuts. And here we've got application menus, panel menus, tools, and task spaces, whatever that is. So, for instance, if we go to the panel menus, what we're looking for is the timeline video section. So we'll scroll down, and we'll have the timeline options. Now, we're not looking for the timeline frames. I know that kind of seems a little counterintuitive, but that's for something else entirely. What we are interested in is the timeline video. And if we unfurl that and go down, we'll have options like go to the next frame, go to previous frame, start of the work area. We'll have the onion skin around here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. Enable onion skin. So these options are found in there, along with a bunch of other options to play around with if you so choose. But for my workflow and how I like to handle things, these are really all that are important to me. So now, if we head over to the application menus and we go down to layer, we have to scroll down to the video layers, and there might be a bit of scrolling because Photoshop is very layer heavy. Surprise, surprise. So we are looking for the video layers right here. And in this section, the things that are the most relevant, in my opinion, are really just four things. Creating a new blank video layer, inserting blank frames, duplicating frames, and deleting frames. But just like before, there are plenty of other options to play around with. Okay, so now that we've got our hotkeys set up, we're ready to begin animating. But before we do, I should mention that the purpose of this video isn't to teach the principles of animation. We're really just focusing on how to unlock these tools so that they're accessible for everyone. So whether you're super proficient in animation or you've never done any kind of hand-drawn animation before, this guide should help anybody and everybody get started. So to begin, the first thing that we're going to want to do is open up the timeline window. And to do that, we'll go over here to the window tab and go down until we find timeline. That'll bring up this handy dandy little thing we can scrub through here, which is very nice. And I've included a project file that I call the work table, and it's got our hotkeys here in a little index card, as well as some animation examples to check out. Next, let's talk about the different types of layers that we can use in Photoshop. There's two different types. There's the standard layer, which is fortunately color-coded to make it a little easier. By default, it's this purple. And we can think of this as a holding layer. So if I make a little scribble here and scrub through the timeline, nothing changes because as long as this layer lasts through the timeline, it will hold. And we can adjust that by changing the lifetime by just dragging around. And now we'll see if I scrub over where it ends, our hold layer will end right there. So that's the first type of layer that we can use. The second is the video layer. And we have a shortcut here in our index card, but let's see where that lives just for right now. So if we go up to layer and down to video layers, we're looking for new blank video layer. And by default, it is color coded blue, and it also has a little thumbnail of a film strip right here. So if we make another little scribble and we scrub the timeline again, we'll notice that it goes away as soon as we leave that frame. And that's because this scribble lives right here. It lives on this frame, on this video layer. So if I were to go to the next frame, and I'm just going to use my hotkey button, go to the next frame and make another scribble, and I'll make yet another one. And now we can kind of go back and forth, and we can see the beginnings of just a masterpiece in the making. But let's do something a little bit more interesting. Let's have some fun. I'm just going to delete this. I'll delete this as well. And you know what? Let's make a little bouncing ball. Why not? Bouncy ball exercises are always fun. So the first thing that I like to do is create a new layer, and I'm going to call this guide. This will help me visualize the ball's path. And for this exercise, I'll be using straight ahead animation. Now, if you're not sure what that means, don't worry about it. All it really means is I'll be making a new drawing on every new frame going forward. And if you're curious to learn more about these kind of animation techniques, we've got a great course about that exact subject over at the website. So go check it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a little guide for myself here, just so that I can see where I can place the ball. I might decrease the opacity. And now let's go ahead and I'm going to use my shortcut here to create a new video layer. And let's start making our bouncy ball. I'll have them start right up in here. Really quickly, I'm just going to be going back and forth between my next frame and my previous frame. So let's make a new frame, and I'll move my ball here, and maybe we'll make another ball here. And we're just having fun. I'm not really worried about like my ball losing volume or anything like that. Just for the most part, just playing around and having some fun. So we can go back and forth. We can scrub it. We can push the space bar to have it play. And since we've only done these keys, nothing else plays after that. Now, if we wanted to insert some more frames in here, that's really easy to do. We've got a hotkey here called, for me, it's Shift F1, and it goes away, but it's not really gone. It's just an inserted frame in between this frame, our new blank frame, and the other frame. So if we wanted to see an onion skin between these, we've got a shortcut key for that, F5, and I'll zoom in, and now we can see the previous and the frame after. And so if I wanted to add a frame right in here, maybe we'll just put them right there, just like that. And maybe I wanted to have a little bit of hang time right in here before it falls. So maybe like right in here, we'll add another blank frame, and I'll put it just about right there. Yeah, that looks good. Maybe one more hang time in here. So I've still got my onion skin on. So let's make another frame in between, right in here. Like that. Actually, kind of more like that. Sure, why not? There we go. Turn the onion skin off. And now we've got just a little bit of little hang time before our guy falls. I kind of like the last frame just before it hits to have a little bit of stretch. So kind of like he's bouncing off of the letters. That could be fun. All right. So let's just keep going. I can turn on my onion skin again, give it a little bit of a squash. And then we'll go to the next frame and pop up. And I'm just roughly following the guide. It doesn't have to be completely on the money here. We just kind of want to get them sort of there. Kind of like this. Down again. Just like that. It's important to make those kind of sound effects anytime you're working. And oops, it looks like I've doubled up on my drawing. That's no problem. So this frame right here, this one right here, should actually go between this one and that one. So that's no problem. So we can just grab lasso tool and I'm going to cut it and insert next frame. And I'll paste that in place with Control, Shift, and V. I think that's right. Yeah. Okay. I might want to have this a little higher anyway. So if I grab my Move tool with V as in Victor, and if I try to drag this, something's going to happen. It doesn't look like it right now in this onion skin, but what I've just done by moving this layer is I've actually moved the entire animation, which is not what I want. So instead, what you have to do is grab the selection of the area, because if you grab just the unselected, you'll be grabbing the entire animation layer, which is not maybe not what you're looking for most of the time. Sometimes it comes in handy, especially like if let's say we wanted the ball to hit maybe closer to the letters here, so we could just pull this down until it's kind of more lined up like that. Boop, and now the entire animation moves with us. Yeah. Now we might need to do a little bit of adjusting for these frames, but that's the difference between moving the entire layer as opposed to a section. So let's go back to the section that we want to move, and I think this is just a little bit too much of a gap. So I'm going to grab this guy, turn on my onion skin, and now that I've got this selection, I can grab my Move tool, and it'll just move him right there. Now there's a little bit of an artifact, kind of a strange thing that happens if you move this up. That's not actually deleting any of the previous frame. It's just a weird kind of glitch that happens sometimes. So I think that's probably good. Kind of like that. And, we might be able to just redo this frame entirely and have them stretch all the way down. Just like that. Now, just like before, I might want to have a little bit of hang time in the beginning right in here. And we already know how to do that. So just in this area right in here, I think between this frame and this frame, we want to have another one. So we'll go back here and we use our hotkey, turn on some onion skin, and I'm just going to place this right there, right in the middle, right like that. Next frame, and we'll do the same thing between this frame and here. Turn on my onion skin, make a new frame, and I'm just going to do it right in between. We should really call these something, these like in-between frames. I don't know what to call them though. All right, so we got a little bounce and a little bit of hang time. Maybe we want just a little bit more, one more thing of hang time right in here. onion skin, insert new frame, and right there you go. Okay. I told you I wasn't going to be teaching the principles of animation, so don't judge me on my volume control. Here we go. Oh, that's getting there. What a cute little bouncy ball. All right, we got our stretch frame right here. And let's go to the next frame. And for this one, I think this end is kind of skinny. So why don't we have it like hang down a little bit? That could be fun. I might even exaggerate a little bit more and have it really stretch. Just like that. Yeah. Maybe I'll clean that up a little bit more. Have it hug. Hugs are good. There we go. That could be fun. So now it's stretching right across there. That's pretty fun. All right. Now let's have this kind of snap back up. So this next frame is really going to come up. It's not quite over that hump. We've got a little kidney bean right here. And then it's going to pop right back up. And let's just keep going. Let's make some more. Just like that. Next frame, we'll put you right here. Woo! I can draw a circle. We can do this. And as you're drawing anything in Photoshop, you know, if one angle isn't working well for you, you can always push R, kind of rotate it. Might give your hand a little bit of a easier time trying to get the angle you're looking for. Maybe we'll make another ball like this. It's going to be making its way down to the bottom. I'm going to rotate a little bit more. Let's keep it going. Bouncy ball exercises are super fun because there's really no rules. You get to make the rules. I'm going to keep going down again. And then maybe one more frame, really stretch it out just before it hits the bottom. Oh, let's rotate this before I get seasick. There we go. Do next frame. And then a little plop. Maybe I'll give one more little frame right in here, like it's really plopping down right there. And up it goes. More until it kind of levels out. And this is just straight ahead animation. But there's really no rules. You can make this however you'd like. So as it kind of comes down here again, we'll have it squish one more time, just a little bit. Not too much. And come back up until it settles. Then after it settles, gotta have those sound effects. Then after it settles, we might want to have this hold. So what we can do is I'm just going to select all, and I'm going to copy with Control-C, like that. And if I paste in place, what will happen is it'll paste it onto a new layer, on a new, like a normal layer right here. And that'll be our hold. Now, if I were to paste this by selecting our video layer, and if I were to paste this onto a blank frame right in here, paste in place with Control Shift and V, it'll keep it inside the animation layer, the video layer. So whenever you have something that you might want to paste into something, if you need it to be a static layer, you will you'll find that by pasting it onto onto a layer that has information onto it, you know, a little scribble or your drawing or whatever your animation is, if there's information there and you try to paste, it'll make a normal layer with it. And if it's blank, it'll just incorporate it within the video layer itself. So for us, we've got our little hold, and it's starting a little bit too early. So what I can do is just grab this and align it with the next frame, like that. And there we go. So let's check them out. We can go back to the beginning. Now these little things right here are the playhead. What are they called? Yeah, just the playheads for the timeline. So as this plays out, once it reaches here, it'll just loop. It'll loop right back. And we don't necessarily want that to happen, so let's drag it out right around there. And let's see how that looks. Boom, boom. Super fun. Yeah. There we go. And we've got our little bouncy ball. Now, because this is still Photoshop, we've got all the tools available to us in any kind of Photoshop layer. So let's say we wanted to give this some layer style, maybe make it glow for some reason. Maybe I can change the color, you know. Let's make this kind of a bright ball. We could do that. And so now it's a glowy little ball that falls down. There's all sorts of things that we could do to this. You know, maybe we could make it where as it's falling down, we could even give it just a little bit of motion blur. This is how, if you don't have any skill in animating, you could fool someone. And by applying that to this frame, it only blurs that frame. So you'll notice that frame before is not blurred, and this one is, and the next one is not. There we go. So to ease it in, what I might actually do is I might apply that blur amount that we did here. So I'll just repeat that. I've got a button for Control F to just repeat the last filter that we used. And then maybe the frame before we'll go back and we'll give it a little bit more blur. It's at 16 pixels, so what about 8? Something like that. There we go. Then as it does this, maybe we'll do that again. Boop. There we go. Let's check that out. That added just so much of a difference. Not really. Well, let's keep going. There's a couple more things that I want to show you guys I think you'll really like. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and just filled in our ball here. So now instead of a circle, now it's more of a more complete ball. And I want to show you a few other parameters that might make this pretty fun, pretty interesting. So here in the timeline window on the layer, we've got our bouncy ball video layer. If I unfurl this, it reveals a couple parameters that are pretty interesting. So we've got position, opacity, and style. So if we were to, let's go over here, and we'll start with the position, even though I don't think this is a great use case for it. I'll just show you guys how it works. We've got these little stopwatches, and if we press that, it creates a little keyframe. And if we were to go over in time and then just kind of move this around, now it's going to actually move, kind of lerps over here, which isn't necessarily what we want, like I said. So we can just click that stopwatch again, boop, and our keyframes go away. Or we could do the opacity. So we can make a little stopwatch keyframe right there, go forward in time, and on the layer itself, we can set the opacity to 0, and from this point to this point, it'll just fade out over time, which can come in handy at several opportunities, but we're not going to do that for right now. But one thing that I think could be interesting is the style, and this has to do with the layer style. So we made some layer effects right in here. We started with a little black ball, and we gave it a glow and a little color overlay. And maybe an idea could be as it hits, maybe that's when it kind of flashes on and glows. So let's see if we can make something like that. So let's go right in here on the squash frame, and I'm going to set my keyframe on the style, and I'm going to go backwards one by pushing my hotkey F1 to go just back one frame, and we'll come in here and we'll double click on the layer to bring up our layer styles, and let's turn these values down on the color overlay and the glow so it's off, and then we go one frame further and it turns on. Now let's come across here, maybe like right in there, and go back into the layer styles and do the same thing. So we'll turn that off, and we'll turn that off as well. Now as this transitions, it's going from white to black, and so because our background is gray, it's kind of getting lost. It's kind of getting grayed out. So we can change that really easy. Let's go back in here. It's already kind of blue-ish. So instead of going to white, yeah, let's make it blue. That should help it. And so by doing that, it creates another key right in here. So now it flashes white and it goes to blue, and then the blue goes to black, just like that. Boom. Very neat. Okay, so let's move forward a little bit and do the same thing here. So we can set a keyframe by hitting this little diamond shape right here, and that creates a keyframe there. We'll go one frame forward with our hotkey and back into the layer styles. Turn that on, and then we'll do the same thing. Like right in about here, I think. Go back into the layer styles. Turn that off. Turn that off. And we're probably going to have to, yep, sure will. We'll have to change the color again. No problem. We know how to do that. We'll just go in here, grab our color, make it blue. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Now right in here, maybe it's getting a little too faint for me. So maybe we'll come back in here just like this and give it a little bit more. Keep it opaque just for a little bit. Now that'll create another keyframe. That's no problem. We're just controlling our color. And let's do the same for the final little pop right in here. Same as before. Hit the diamond. Next frame. Go back in here. Come in here. And turn these on. Couple frames further. Go back into the layer styles. And because it automatically creates these keyframes, you can run through these pretty quickly. All right, it's fading out in an undesirable way again. Again, we know how to fix that. We can do this, just like that. And there we go. So maybe just like before, it's getting a little washed out. Let's just come back in here and turn that on, just like that. There we go. So now let's take a look at what we got. We'll go back to the beginning of the playhead. You could either drag this, or you can push F3 to the start of the work area. And we'll push spacebar. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Now it looks like our hold frame still had the effects applied to it. We probably don't need those anymore. So we'll just turn that off. Let's watch it again. Boom, boom, boom. There it goes. Just like that. Now, something else that might be interesting could be to apply some I don't know, visual effects on top of it. That could be fun. So let's keep going. Let's have some fun. So right around in here, I'm thinking maybe let's add some electricity. Why not? Yeah, right in here. So for sanity's sake, to keep it clean, I'm going to click on my bouncy ball layer right here, and I'm going to make a new blank video layer, and I'm going to use my keyboard shortcuts, just like that. And again, for sanity's sake, I'm going to name my layer. Let's name it lightning, like that. Let's make some lightning. So maybe as it's falling down and hitting, maybe we want like a few little zippy zappies. So let's do that real quick. Lightning's really fun to do in straight ahead animation. So maybe we'll start with a really simple shape, something like that. I kind of want it to go a little up, but then it kind of comes in onto itself and goes back. And the really fun thing about lightning is you can make this however you'd like. But this is just how I like to do this. So we can just start with just pure white like this, or we could apply the same effect style to this layer. That could be fun. There's two ways to do that. You could right click on that layer and copy the layer style and then paste it on there. Or if you're in a hurry like me, you just hold down Alt, grab this little thing that says FX, and you can drag that onto your layer and it applies it. Both options do the same exact thing. It's just whatever is your preference. So, all right, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sharpen up these corners, kind of like that. Sure, why not? And you know what? Maybe what I want this to do is I want to have this be the next frame, not this frame. So what I'll do is I'm going to select all, and I'm going to cut it with Control X. I'm going to go one frame in the future, and then I'm going to paste it in place. And because we're pasting in place on an empty frame, it just put it right into our video layer. Maybe on this frame, what I want instead, if I turn on my onion skin, is I want to have just a little bit of a anticipation frame, just like that, right in there. There we go. Okay, and let's do something wild. Let's make it go right over here, something like that. Yeah. Electricity is wild. Just kind of goes all over the place. There we go. One more frame. Just down here, make it go. Something like that. Something real crazy. Starting one place and going somewhere else entirely. I'm going to fatten up this line right in here. That'll work. Sure, why not? Oh, maybe that's a little too extreme. We're going to find out. Now, we might do is we might go back up to about right in here on our next frame. That might give us just a little bit of a flicker. There we go. Something like that. And we'll add in a couple cuts. Something that way. We'll go next. And I'm going to follow this shape up. So I'm looking at these kind of corners right in here. I want this top corner to go up like this. I don't want this one to kind of go out. And the same on the other side, sort of like that. And all the while, for my electricity shape, it starts out nice and fat, but over time, it kind of gets pinched. So I'll be erasing it away over time so it looks like it's losing some strength. So let's try that. So let's get it pushed up over here, and I push it up that way, something like that. And it's already pretty thin, so we're just going to keep it stretching. And if in the process of erasing it starts to get completely erased, I'm not going to worry too much about that. I think that's fine. All right. And we're going to do one more. Here. And now here, I'm just going to kind of follow that where that's at. Again, going up and out. That's the plan. So we're going to go up like this and out like that. Just like so. And you'll notice I'm not filling in the lines here because I'm sort of imagining that they're losing strength in these areas, and the rest of whatever energy that it's got is all right up in here. And I might do a little cut right in here just to show that it's kind of breaking up. We'll see. We might make it, and it might be terrible. That's okay. Let's keep going. Maybe one more. It's got a little bit more juice, maybe in this corner, in that corner. Just a little bit. Something like that. With electricity, you just kind of have to play it by ear and see what feels right. I like to have just a little bit of a remainder right in there. Let's see. That doesn't look too bad. Now, when we started off, this looked like it was a little crazy, a little chaotic, and maybe it is. Well, that's all right. Maybe I will change it. Maybe I'll have this shape actually kind of flipped around. So I'll grab this, maybe flip it so it's kind of like that. So it's kind of like the shape is going upside down. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. Now maybe this one, maybe I'm not liking that so much. That's okay. Never be too afraid to just erase, start over. It's coming up this way. Maybe we'll do something like that. Big fat lines. Something like this. You know what? Oh heck. Let's put a little thing in the middle there. And I just want to make sure I got like some nice thick parts and some thin parts. It just gives it a little bit of a visual interest. There we go. There we go. And that's what we want to do. Now, from here, we've got our little lightning electricity zip zappy. Now, what we could do is we could copy this and put it back down here. So what I might do now is we'll cut this layer with F6 like that. That's split the playhead. So we're splitting this, and all this is just empty space. We don't need it, so I'm just going to delete it. And if we unfurl this, this kind of shows us where our information is at, where the animation kind of data lives. So now we'll duplicate this. Why not? And right about here is where we want to place it. And by place it, I mean placing it at the right point in time. So Now we just need to move it into the correct actual placement. And we know how to do this. If we don't select anything and we use our move tool, we'll move the entire animation just like that. So we just place that right in place. And there we go. Now we could create a new little spark effect or something, but if you wanted to save a little bit of time, that is how we would do that. And then maybe one more time. So let's duplicate that. And we'll move that into position. All right there. Get that situated. There we go. Pretty fun. So let's watch that. Let's see here. Just drag this down so we can get a better picture. There we go. Now it's all the same. So if you wanted to make it a little bit nicer, maybe recreating the steps that we did for each of these places, that might help. One way we might be able to cheat would be to flip this one. So let's grab this, and I'm trying to transform it. And as soon as I do that, I get a notification saying transforming the video will require converting it into a smart object. So let's just do that, and we'll flip it horizontally. It kind of goes away. It's a little bit of a glitch, but it's no problem. And one issue that happens when we turn a video layer into a smart object is, one, if we had any effects applied to it, it normalizes the sort of the blending mode of everything inside it, including the effects we gave it. So we need to change this over to like a color add or something. Maybe screen. There we go. And another issue is once we've done that, we can't modify this on its own. So now it's a smart object. It's no longer a video layer itself, at least not in this context. So we get a crossed out kind of thing. And if we try to draw, we won't be able to make any modifications like that unless we rasterize it, which would just flatten this out and just give us a static layer, which is not what we want. Since this is a smart object, how we would modify this, we could double click on this, and this would bring it up as a sort of a new Photoshop file inside Photoshop. Kind of a nested thing, I suppose. But we don't need to do any changes there. This is fine. There we go. And now we've got a fun little bouncy ball that gets zapped as it falls its way down. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this gives you some inspiration and unlocks a fun and powerful tool for you to use in your own projects. As you can see, we've just scratched the surface here. There's a number of different applications that we could use this for. As a visual effects artist, I obviously use this for effects, but it's animation. So if you want to create character animation or something abstract and fun, the world is your oyster. The sky is the limit. However you want to say it, the possibilities are endless. All right, everyone, that's it from me for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, go blow something up, and I'll see you later.